Have you ever considered how many people you come in contact with every week that could be struggling with problems? It's probably a lot more than you think. But even if the people had a sign around their neck saying, "Please help me, I'm struggling," some Christians wouldn't even try to help at that point because they feel spiritually inadequate. Unfortunately, some Christians feel they haven't prayed enough, or they haven't read the Bible enough, or they haven't memorized enough scripture verses. So they think there's no way God will work through them even once. But nothing can be further from the truth. There is not an imaginary line or an imaginary spiritual level that you have to cross before God can work through you. The Bible repeatedly shows us that you do not have to be a spiritual giant for God to work through you. Now, it's important to strive to grow spiritually, but God can use you right now, today, if you let Him. What would you do if God visited you today and said, "You're not listening. I've been trying to tell you I have something I want you to do"? Have you ever considered that God might want to use you to help in answering someone's prayers? It might be dropping by someone's house to offer to pray with them, or calling them on the phone to pray. Even if the prayers aren't answered immediately, it can encourage someone enough to get through another day, and just doing that is helping in answering their prayers. Maybe it's offering to talk to someone that is struggling with a spouse or child or business or work. Maybe it's introducing a friend to someone you know, and that person might be able to help your friend in some way. Maybe with the job, or maybe a future spouse. I actually met my wife through her cousin when her cousin felt compelled to introduce us. I'm very glad her cousin listened to God, was obedient, and intervened. If you were struggling with a problem, or waiting on God to answer a prayer, and there was someone that God wanted to intervene, but they weren't listening and it delayed your prayers being answered, how discouraging or depressing would that be? Now consider this. Are you that same person who isn't listening to God to help answer someone else's prayers? Don't let TV, sports, or hobbies, or friends distract you from hearing from God and being obedient. I want to stress, this is not about how many Bible verses you've read, or how many scripture verses you've memorized, or how many hours a day you pray. While all of that is very important, and we should strive to grow spiritually, this is about one thing: obedience. Obedience to God. As I mentioned in part 1, there is not an invisible or an imaginary spiritual line that you have to cross before God can or will work through you. God can use you today, where you are at spiritually right now, if you let Him. Will you turn off the TV or computer, or put down your cell phone for one evening to just sit in silence to hear from God? Why don't you try it this evening? Take one evening by yourself in silence and wait on God and watch what happens. Some people like me might get distracted every 10 minutes, but just shake it off and continue to wait on God. God might be trying to get your attention right now to make a difference in someone's life, but you're distracted with everything else going on around you. Please don't wait another day. Do it this evening. Seek God for His direction and then step out in faith, and maybe God will be using you to help answer someone's prayers. You can do this.